Hi, my name is Rebecca Renck. I just had an amazing conversation with Kim Sorrelle. We found that we have several things in common, and I just think it's an amazing, amazing world that we live in, and that we can support ourselves in love and unity and health, and how we can um, express that with each other, creating a conversation around helping and supporting each other.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here. You're going to be so happy you're here. I am Kim Sorrelle. I'm a speaker, I'm an author. I get to do a lot of fun things in life, but my favorite thing to do by far is meet people. And I get to meet some of this world's most extraordinary human beings. And today I am with Rebecca, and she is one of the most resilient, thoughtful people I have ever met. You're going to hear her story. You're going to be surprised, inspired, uplifted. It's going to be an incredible show. So thanks for tuning in. And Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Glad to be here, Kim.
Great. So we're going to get into some things we have in common, actually. And we're going to get into your resilience and all of that. But first, I want people to know Rebecca. So I would like you to tell me about 8-year-old Rebecca.
8-year-old Rebecca, she was afraid. I was one of those kids that was afraid to raise her hand in class. I knew the answer. I just had an innate sense of what needed to be said. But unfortunately, in the 60s, 70s, that wasn't always the best thing to do. And I was a shy little thing that was afraid to raise her hand in class. I would just get butterflies in my stomach, and my throat would close up, and all of the above. And that was a turning point. I think really early on, I tried to kind of overcome some of that, and instead kind of retreated to my room. I retreated into learning and being and just finding out who I was inside myself. And I became okay with that. I really did. And, growing up and even being in high school and all of that, I kind of went a different path because I wasn't always accepted. I wasn't always the out, the sports person. I didn't do sports. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I was teased for, having glasses and reading. And so it's, I was always kind of on the outside, I felt like. And going into after I got married and started having kids, I was also unfortunately diagnosed with a disease that has kind of shaped the rest of my life. So,
Wow. Wow. Well, very interesting. Uh, that had to be hard and a little isolating, feeling like you don't belong, don't fit in.
mhm.
It's so important for kids to have that sense of belonging. And I always feel bad when I go into a school and you see that kid who's standing over by the wall or just kind of not engaging on the playground, and you can tell that they're just not sure of themselves and
Mhm.
just don't feel like they should even be there. And what an awful feeling that had to be. And but you overcame that feeling. Like you did go on, meet somebody wonderful, and had a life. So what do you think you learned from that, from being that kid in the corner?
I think I learned a knowing of myself more than probably a lot of people do, where they are accepted by um, the outside and the people around them more. And I think that unfortunately, when you are only accepted by the outside, you rely on that. You become that. You don't really know yourself, and I believe that that's what I learned from my experience. And it wasn't all bad, that I wasn't always the outcast by any means. I do love people, and I'm very friendly, and I can talk to anybody. But I had to learn that I was okay and that I had a voice too. So
Yeah, right, right,
without
right.
relying on other people. So for that
Yeah.
accreditation. So yeah.
Yeah. That's a thing, right? To know that you have a voice and that you're
Hmm.
worthy to be heard, or however you would put that. And it's funny to me always that like kids decide who's cool, right? Or kids decide
Right.
who's in, who's out. And it's like,
Yeah.
where did that ever come from? Like everyone should just be in. Like just make a friend. And unfortunately too, you're not the only one. So there's other kids in every class that are feeling like that, like you felt, and
Hmm.
they don't know it. You feel like you're the only one that feels like that, and that makes it even more isolating. But you
Yeah.
dove into books and learning. What were your
Yes.
favorite things to learn and favorite books to read?
Oh, I was into the self-development things really early on, and the purpose of life. That was my big deal. It was like, okay, why am I here? And I just had this knowing inside of me that I needed to expand that and figure out what the purpose of life was. And there's a few things, you like the romantics and the romance stories and things like that. But probably the anything that I could get my hands on. I wasn't real big into reading classic novels and things like that, but definitely some of the Socrates and Plato and things like that that kind of gave you an overview of purpose of life. And I try to figure that out. It's like, how does that work now? It's so different now. This isn't right. This is useless kind of thing. But it was,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow, very interesting.
integrating and
Yeah.
trying to figure out where I stood and where I was at. So,
Wow. Well, how self-reflective. Like, man, I was reading Nancy Drew at that age,
I
and
had
you were
Nancy Drews
reading
also.
Plato.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I never thought about reading Plato or anything,
yeah, yeah.
like that. So that's really cool. Like, what were some great lessons that you learned from that you carry with you today?
Oh my goodness. Probably the biggest one was that history repeats. And I can't think right off the top of my head who actually said that, and it was probably something more current. But history really does repeat, and we really are the same now as we were thousands of years ago. And that piece of knowledge kind of carried me through. It was much like when I was having my children and being pregnant and getting ready to give birth. I kind of solaced myself and said, you know what? Women have been giving birth for thousands and thousands of years. You can do this too, kind of thing.
Right.
And that mindset, I think, is carries through. It just carries through. And if you can look back and say, wow, what were the people thinking thousands of years ago and how much different was their life? And in reality, it wasn't a whole lot different. If you let go of the McDonald's hamburgers, and if you let go of,
The cell phone.
the
Yeah.
cell phone and the news and all of these things, and it's life wasn't much different. And I think that's a very empowering thing to hold on to,
Yeah.
especially now
Right.
when we're can't figure out which way to turn around some days.
Oh
So,
my gosh, I love that. I love that because it's so true. I think sometimes people can look at the past and go, well, they weren't as smart. Well, it didn't have anything to do with that. It's just things have developed over time. Like,
mhm.
we didn't have the light bulb immediately and a telephone and computers, right? And so it's not that people got smarter, it's just that there were other things in place that led to the next and led to the next and led to the next. And so, yeah, and we've always needed to eat and been in
Absolutely.
relationship and have children. And, the
Right.
most important basic things of life are things that have always happened. So yeah, interesting. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you were thrown this huge curveball. So tell me, you've got
Mhm.
kids. How many kids?
I had 4 kids,
Okay.
and I still have 4 kids. Now I have in-laws too, or
Mhm.
but they, yeah, I had 4 small children, and all of a sudden I just was not recovering over when I had the last one. And by the time he was 2, I was just so sick and I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out what was going on by any means. And was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And at the time, this was 1990. And so it wasn't really well known. And it was not something that, I couldn't just look up on the internet. We had no internet. So if I wanted information, I had to go down to Barnes and Noble and buy a book, or I had to go to the library and look things up. The doctors really didn't have a lot of information. They thought, well, it's probably the foods you're eating. Well, I wasn't eating anything that wasn't causing problems. So that was really frustrating.
Oh,
And I finally got into I call her my angel doctor in my book, my Healing Habits book that I just wrote. But she kind of turned me on to how I could take care of myself. And she said, she says, you're going to have to figure out a way to deal with this and to make yourself feel better. And just those words were enough to put me onto a path that, I started studying meditations and stress relief and just the nutrition piece of it first and foremost. And then it kind of led into toxins and how to get rid of toxins in your life. And it just went down a path that over the, last 35 years, I've just developed over more and more and more reasons and ways to take care of yourself. So.
oh, so interesting. And fortunately for the rest of the world, you put it in a book. And so your 35 years of incredible experience is out there for people to read and have and buy it. It's wonderful. So that had to be quite a thing though. Here you are, 4 little kids. How old was your oldest?
My oldest one was, I want to say, let's see, she was 8. She had just
8.
not quite 8, so 7.5, not quite 8.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
7 down to 2.
yeah,
So it's pretty close together.
close
And then
together.
very busy, very, very
Hmm.
busy. I had 4 kids. My oldest was 4.5 when my 4th one was born. And it's a blur to me.
Oh,
Like
yes,
the
yes,
80s are just a blur. Like I know I cooked dinner sometimes. I mean, they all ate, and they all had clean clothes, I guess. I don't know, but it is a blur. It is so busy.
yes.
And with child number 3, I was like, oh my gosh, all bets are off. We're outnumbered. As soon
Hmm.
as you're outnumbered, it's like, might as well have 4, might as well have 5. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever,
it,
right?
it's just kids. And I like to tell people, and people didn't believe me, but you will understand this. I didn't sleep for 7 years.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
literally, I just didn't sleep for 7 years, and I think that was a big problem too. But
Yeah,
and like you
because you
said,
need that. Yeah.
yeah, just eating and not having a routine, and everything was just up in the air, and it didn't matter what day it was. It was just, like you said, it's just a blur. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so busy. There's so much. You're trying to do all the right things. And
Hmm.
holy cow, some days I felt like I was lucky to remember their names. Like it was
Hmm.
just, it was just crazy. And then they had friends that would come over. It's like, holy cow, I mean,
Right.
it was a circus, but it was fun, but a
Hmm.
blur all the same. So here you are with these kids, and then you feel like crap. Like that is not an easy thing. I mean, I remember like getting the flu or getting something that's a short term couple
Hmm.
of days thing, feeling like, what do I do? How do I take care of my family? How do I take care of my kids while I'm laying on the couch with a bucket beside me? And this,
Hmm.
we're talking long term, you're not feeling good.
Right. And it was very hard. And I eventually just got to the point where we would get up, I would try to get through what we need to do for breakfast and things like that. And I would literally lay on the couch and let them watch VHS tapes. My daughter would just keep replaying, and things. And she, unfortunately, my 7-year-old, she became kind of the caretaker for a lot of the pieces and parts during the day. It's like, no, go get your brother a diaper, or, go get this, go get that. And I just realized at the time that was not okay. I couldn't live like that. They couldn't live like that. And I needed to do something. And so when I was finally diagnosed, I was barely walking up the stairs. I had to rest halfway up the stairs. I was so weak. I'd lost so much weight. I just couldn't eat, and or it just hurt to eat. And I realized I just needed something. And so when I made that decision, I mean, it was a hard line in the sand. It was my other option was, well, you're going to take this medication. I ended up being allergic to it, so that didn't help me. And so, and she says, well, you'll probably have surgery within 5 years, and we don't know what the prognosis is at this point. And I was like, no, this is not okay. I want to raise my kids. I want to be a part of their life. I want to do this. And I kept going back to, for whatever reason, I kept thinking about the fact that, you know what, a body can heal. A body can heal from a cut. A body can heal from giving birth. A body can heal from a broken bone. Why can't a body heal from something that is just, causing me diarrhea and pain? And what's going on with this? And so I started studying and researching whatnot. But I really think it was just the faith that I had that I could do something. If it was manageable, and that's what they told me was Crohn's disease was manageable, I was going to manage it. And how that turned out was did not want to be that sick. And so it kind of became this, how can I can decide how sick I want to be. I don't want to be this sick. So that's where I started. And
Wow.
that was my purpose. And then my purpose was, in fact, to have a regular life. So be able to do things other than lay on the couch.
Yeah,
So,
good for you. Like that's amazing because you could have not done that. You could
mhm,
have said, this is the lot I'm dealt. This is
right.
what I get in life. And so I'm just gonna, crawl in a corner and let my 7-year-old be the mama.
Mhm.
And instead you took steps to change the way you felt. And so what were some of the very first things that you did that had an impact on how you felt?
I started eating differently. First and foremost, I mean, organic was kind of hard to get at the grocery store, but we did have farmers markets and things like that that I would go to eat some organic foods, whole foods. And I learned that combining foods was a difference. Not to combine meats with grains or fruits with grains. It's just easier to digest. And so I kind of went down that path of how I could find easiest things to digest. I found out I couldn't eat fresh vegetables because they just didn't digest. So I would cook them. And I started drinking aloe vera, a really high quality fresh aloe vera. And that was a game changer because that kind of it was a healing from within kind of situation with that. And then I realized that, like you said, just the stress of being home with 4 kids, and my husband was working long hours, which don't blame him a bit with that, and I was working long hours too, being home, and realizing that I had to kind of take care of myself a little bit. It wasn't all about the kids. I wasn't going to be a super mom if I couldn't get off the couch. And so I needed to find a balance of what I could do to take care of myself. That created more emotional balance and a more emotional stability, that I could be happy and I could see the blessings of what my life was about. So those were the kind of the first things. Then I realized detoxing some of the chemicals that it was just coming out at that time about some of the chemicals that we had in our lotions and hair shampoos and dryer sheets and things like that, and in water. And there was a big thing in our town, which turned out to be, oh my gosh, all of the chemicals and things that are still in the water and the toxins and the things that are left in the water. So that kind of led me on to a detoxing the chemicals and things out of my life. And so with those three things, that was the beginning. That was the
Wow.
beginning.
Wow. Wow. And so how long did it take? Like once you were on this path, once you had this mindset of
Mhm.
I'm going to do this, I'm going to feel better. I want a different life. I want to feel better. How long from when that light switch went on till you started to notice a change in how you felt?
I would say Well, I think we moved. I can kind of tell when we moved into a new house about 2 years later.
Wait, just a second. Okay, moving for anybody is stressful, and we know it's
Yes.
stressful for your body, right? It's stressful, it's painful, it's
Yes,
agonizing. Like whenever I move, I think I just want to wake up in the new place and everything's already put away. Like that would
absolutely.
be the dream, right?
Right.
Yeah. So in the middle of this, you move.
We moved and we
Oh,
decided that we wanted to kind of reduce expenses and move to another house that we had rented out, which needed work. And again, you still have 4 kids. It's like, okay, kids, this is your box. This is what you get to take, kind of thing. And I had one still in diapers, and so that was good because when we moved, I told him we didn't have diapers at the new house, and so he had to, and that was great for potty training. So that worked out well. But yeah, that was, I remember very specifically saying, if I live through this move, I think that I have made it past the worst of my disease. And I did. And it was, but there was, so I knew it had started to get better, that I had the upper hand on it, much more than I had obviously the 2 years previous. So, but it's never been, it's not a once and done, you know, life with chronic illness and a chronic disease can come back anytime. I still have that predisposition. I was sick a couple of weeks ago and for a couple of days, and I'm going, okay, what's going on? But now I can say that. I can look at things and say, okay, what's going on? What did I do? Is it the stress? Is it, the president of this property owners association that I'm dealing with, or what is it, in my life that I can pinpoint and kind of turn around very quickly. And so there was ups and downs throughout, but I never got so sick that I was in the hospital again. I never got so sick that I needed to have a new medication. I never got so sick that I couldn't turn it around. So,
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And gives so much hope to people with chronic illnesses that maybe there's something more that you can do
mhm,
to feel better. So diet is a huge thing. And, I often think when I was a kid, it was a treat. My parents would give us a quarter. We'd ride our bikes to Stop and Go and get candy, right? Like it was a
mhm,
treat. It didn't happen every day. Now I see candy galore. Like there's candy everywhere always. And sugar is an issue. And there's other things that are in our diets constantly that are issues
mhm.
that we would feel a whole lot better without, even without Crohn's, we would feel better without. So what are some things that you would say? You mentioned meat and grains, which that's interesting because who doesn't have bread with, you go out to eat, you order a steak and you get the bread beforehand. So
Mhm.
meat and grains, like what does that do for you? And what are your best nutrition wisdom nuggets?
the everybody's different. Now, my husband, he was actually diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, but he could eat anything. It did not matter. He could eat anything. It didn't bother him a bit. Probably bothered him more on the inside, what he didn't know about. But me, I had to, having a digestive problem, I had to really be careful of how I combine foods and, whether I got heartburn or not, or whether, it would just affect me very quickly. And so I learned to combine foods differently. But I can't say that this is going to work or this isn't going to work. And, like I said, I couldn't eat, I can't, a salad is hard for me to eat still to this day. It's hard to digest those vegetables as being raw, but fruits I can eat, not a problem. But one of the things I realized over the years is our standard American diet is obviously not the healthiest by any means, with processed foods and sugars and everything that is laden with it. And so as a rule, I try to stay away from just a basic standard American diet. And I learned what my new normal was. And I think that's what everybody needs to realize, that they can create their new normal. And there's different things. Some people can, have wine more than other people. Some people can, eat more meat than other people. Some people can, eat more grains. But you need to find out what's good for you. And you need to find out how you can sustain yourself. The first and foremost thing is what you need to do to feed your cells. How do you feed your body the best possible nutritious diet that's going to just feed your physical body in the best way possible? And so that's kind of the overall picture that I always try to stay with. It's not that I didn't eat, or stop at the fast food restaurant with the kids or that kind of thing, but like you said, it can be a treat rather than the norm. So.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I don't know. There's some entitlement um happening in our world, in our country, I guess. Maybe I can
Mm-hmm,
speak for a lot of Americans, and there's some entitlement, and sometimes I think it carries over to food. Like, well, why can they eat that and I can't? So Culver's Turtle Sunday, heck yeah, I'm in, or whatever. And it's kind of a funny thing to me because uh eating is enjoyable experience. It's a social thing, going out for dinner with people, whatever. And so
mm-hmm,
eating is a thing we all need to do to survive. But there are just some simple things that you can probably do that give you more energy and make you
mm-hmm,
just feel better and not get that 3 o'clock lull in the afternoon, or whatever it is. And so you started eating cleaner and you
mm-hmm,
realized for your body what worked and what didn't.
mm-hmm.
So it takes a bit to want to
It
listen
takes
to your
it
body.
does yeah, it does take a bit, and like you said, I think people don't realize that they could feel better. Disease does you don't catch a disease. It happens over your lifetime. It happens over time. And so if you're not doing things, it's just like heart disease, and they've got a lot of diets out for heart disease right now and have for the last 20 years. And that you need to reduce this and reduce that, but they don't ever tell you what to increase, which is sad. And so
Right.
it's
Yeah.
okay, eat more of this, just don't eat this, kind of thing. And I don't know, I think you can't always trust too now. We found that can't always trust what's people are telling you what to do and what not to do, so they really do need to do your own research. But the thing is, it's only eating the things that are going to provide nutrition. And I go back to that. What did they do thousands of years ago? Granted, they didn't have long lifespans, but they also didn't have disease for the most part. Very, very few people, they might have died of old age at 45 or 50 years old thousands of years ago, but they didn't have disease up until that time that they died. And as far, what history proves. And so that becomes, again, you have to create your own normal, create what's good for you. I've spent, I think thousands and thousands of dollars over the last 35 years on the aloe vera. And I will take it till the day I die because I know it works and it's good for me. And I don't have to drink as much now as I used to, but next week I might have to. And it's whatever works and whatever your body is needing. I also have some other very high quality supplements. And the way I look at it is I would rather spend my money that way every day and eating and buying good food rather than spending it on deductibles for health insurance and deductibles at the hospital and the
True.
lack of production, being able to live my life and productivity that I have. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it used to be that there was this big difference in organic and not organic, and in the produce section, but that gap is closing. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I know there's controversy. Is it really organic? And what do you trust? But at least it's something. At least
It's
it's
something,
try it,
right?
right? And
Right.
hopefully it truly
Yeah.
is organic, and hopefully it doesn't have the chemicals and things that you don't want. And so, yeah, so little things that you can do.
Little things. And you mentioned going out to eat and it being social, and food is social. But it's much more, I think I think we get into this. I have to be the same as everybody else, and that starts from very early on, that 8-year-old little girl, wow, I'm different. I can't be the same as everybody else. And I think we get into that mindset that when in fact we tell people, no, I'm not doing barbecue today. I will go with you to eat, but I'm not doing the barbecue itself. It's like
Right.
barbecue, sauce and me is not going to go together. And I think people are much more willing to forgive us and be more tolerant than we forgive ourselves and are tolerant of ourselves. And so we make ourselves stand out and feel bad, I think, much more than really we need to. And we can go out, and you can go out and not drink, or you can go out and just have a 7-Up. People just want to be around you. And I think that's what we need to realize too. So you can stick to your standards, you can stick to your normal and what's going to help you and be a part of, your health, rather than trying to fit in with everybody else. And that's I think people respect that, and maybe more now than ever, because it is much more common that people have allergies and things that they can't eat anymore. So
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's
mhm,
no reason we think that everyone's going to judge what we order from the menu, but they're looking at the menu, figuring out what they're going to order. So I'm
right.
not sure that people really care what you order,
Yeah, I don't think so
right?
either. And I think by giving yourself permission to do what you need to do for you, it also gives other people permission. It kind of opens the door for them, that they can say, oh, well, okay, yeah, maybe I don't need a salad today, or maybe I do need a salad today, or whatever the situation is. And by being open and being that non-judgmental person on yourself, you actually express that to everybody else too. And kind of that whole situation relaxes a little bit. And if people aren't, I always tell people that, you know what, if they're not going to accept you and they're going to cast judgment on you, then you don't want them in your life anyway,
Right.
to be
Right.
quite
Right. They're the
honest.
wrong one. Get those
Right.
people off your bus. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
They are the wrong
Yeah.
ones for you.
Yeah. Yeah. They need to
So
be on somebody else's butts and they'll do just fine there.
that's
So
right.
yeah, so true. Okay, uh so you've gone through this and now you know. By the way, what does aloe vera do for you?
Aloe vera is a detoxification. It does detox. It has a lot of trace minerals. It has a lot of healing power. You talk about aloe vera, being put on a burn, a sunburn, things like that. And it is a adaptogen that really heals the body very easily. And the body can take it in, and the body can use it very quickly and easily. It single-handedly healed up my 4 ulcers that I had in my stomach. And I have my ulcers named my kids' names, obviously, at that
Oh,
time, but no, I tease them. But no, it single-handedly healed up the ulcers that I had, because I didn't take any other medication for that. So yeah, so the aloe vera is a game changer for anybody with anything. It really is it detoxes the liver, it detoxes the spleen, and it's a consistent in how helping your body. So
wow.
so I like that. That's a big deal. I have that listed on my website just as a reference, because I think it's so important. But there's so much out there now that people are really starting to tap into things that will help the body, the electrolytes and the waters and things like that. As soon as something like the electrolytes came out, that made a big difference. Just because you need those pieces, parts that you never see, that your body should have to thrive and to keep that energy high, and to keep that vibrational energy high in your
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
system.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Wow. So okay, so you figure out what it is for you that is going to
mhm.
change your life and make you this wonderful person that you are today, with energy, able to do things and more than you thought you could way back when.
Mhm.
And now you're helping other people along the way. But life hasn't been only that, right? Like you've had some
No.
other twists and turns along the way.
Oh, absolutely. Life is just life. You have things that go wrong, you have relationships that go wrong, you have to rebuild, you have to redo, you have to kind of reevaluate constantly. And that's part of what I always did, was that reevaluation. And I was uh, had been divorced and was dating someone, and then all of a sudden was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer. And that came just out of the blue. It's like, I don't have any symptoms, nothing. It was just off of a mammogram. And so I had to stop. And the first thing, and part of this is part of my story too, and I like to tell this, is that you don't have to jump on the immediate bandwagon that they give you. Um, Within hours of having this mammogram, I mean, within hours, they had me scheduled for surgery. They had me scheduled for, this, that, and the other thing in this treatment protocol that was just unreal. And so the first oncologist that I went in and talked to, I said, this is going to mess up my Crohn's. I can't take this medication. I have my Crohn's under control. So, oh, that's all right. We have a medication to help you with your Crohn's. I was like, no, you don't understand. I don't take medication for my Crohn's, and I'm not sure I want to introduce a really strong medication that's going to mess that whole system up. And then it's like, oh, well, you need to talk to this other doctor. And it's like, and I'm not saying the doctors are bad. They have their place, and I am saying that you need to take a step back and think about what's good for you first. And if that's the standard protocol, take the standard protocol. If that's a different kind of a hybrid, do the hybrid. If it's stepping back and not doing anything, that's your decision. But when I was told that I had 6 months to live if I didn't do this, I'm kind of going, wow, that's rather radical. And well, if I only have 6 months to live, maybe I'll step back and see what I can do for myself first. I can always come back and make my appointment with you guys. And so I did that, and I did have surgery, and I did have that piece of it. But then the rest of it, I decided, let me try this first. I've had, 30 years or 20 years of success managing my own disease. Let's see if I can try this too. And I can always come back to the oncologist. That was always an option. And it worked. And I did this reevaluation, and I thought about, okay, what's going on in my life, really taken that hawk's eye view, I call it, of my whole life and what's happened and where I'm at and what my emotional state was, what my physical state was. And honestly, the biggest thing was probably what was in my cupboards and what had creeped back into my life as far as eating. And like I said, I was in a new relationship, and he ate completely different than I did. And I was like, oh, I feel good. I can eat anything. I was like, that didn't work out so well. And so it was, but my point is to be able to step back. Don't take everything for, just that first initial value. Stop and think about what you're doing, and don't only rely on everybody else's opinion and everybody else's um, uh, idea of what you need to do that's best for you. Only you know what's best for you. So,
So true. So true. And how old were you, by the way, when you were diagnosed with breast cancer?
55.
55. Okay. So
Yeah.
I got that phone call at 47, and it is shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And my gosh, I cried. I wailed, my husband cried, whatever. I mean, it's such a shocking diagnosis and totally unexpected, not in the family, just like you,
Mm-hmm.
like, what is happening? And then it is a bit of a whirlwind. And I totally agree that you need to, at that point in time, really take control and self-advocate. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, for me, the first doctor that I went to, the first surgeon that I went to, I just did not feel good about being in that office. And so I
Mm-hmm.
went to somebody else that I loved. And so you need to take a step back. And in the medical community, I've got a son who's a cancer researcher. And in the medical community, there are protocols. You have this, and there's several kinds of breast cancer. You have this kind of breast cancer, this is what they do. You have this
Mhm.
kind of liver cancer, this is what they do, whatever it is. And because that's what they've seen work with the majority of the people, so
Mhm.
that's what they have going. But everybody is a little different, and figuring out what's going to work for you, and to breathe for a second.
Oh,
Just
yes.
breathe for a second. A
Yeah.
day or two is not going to change things, I don't believe, in any radical way. So to step back and just go, okay, what are my
Yeah.
choices? What are the alternatives? What is it that I can do?
Right.
Is such great advice, really great advice.
Yeah. And and you're so right in saying that fear is so immediate and it is so paralyzing. That immediate fear that says, "Oh my God, I'm going to die." I mean, that it is just synonymous with a breast cancer or any kind of cancer diagnosis. Like, "Oh my God, I'm going to die," and it doesn't have to be that way. It just does not have to be that way. And I think that's a real a disservice the medical field has done for everybody. And like you said, they have protocols, and that's fine. I get it. I'm not a medical person. I understand, and it's everybody has to make their own decision on where they're at and what they can do. And that was the first oncologist. I called her Brunhilde. That was like, but I told her, literally told her, I says, "Well, you say I'm going to be dead in 6 months. If I'm still alive in 6 months and still need help, I'll come back and see you." And but I shouldn't have had to been put in that position. I really should not have been. And that's what I'm trying to change, that it doesn't matter what you're diagnosed with. You should not be put in the position that this is your only option. This medication is your only option. This protocol is your only option, because that's just not true. And many times, especially chronic illnesses, can be better managed and the symptoms can be better managed with your lifestyle. It's just a given fact. And the medications are not going to cure you. And at some point, they're not going to manage the symptoms well either, because your body kind of grows beyond that. And so you really have to, if you want to overcome anything with a chronic illness, you need to help yourself, and you need to create a lifestyle that supports healing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point, because it's holistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything. It's your mind and your spirit and your heart, your body. It's everything. It's all encompassing. And
Mm-hmm.
and uh I took an approach of that and this. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
trusted the doctor. I found doctors that I trusted, and then went to those doctors that I loved. I loved the
Mm-hmm.
doctors and did what they wanted me to do. But meanwhile, I completely changed my diet, and I did change my mindset. And I think that we have a little bit more power than we think we do, because we can change those things, and whether they're telling you to or not. And I do know, because of my son Noah, I do know that there aren't that many cancers that they can say this causes cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Cigarettes cause cancer, asbestos causes cancer, right? But turnips, not so much. I mean, there's so many things they can't point to. Why is this cancer happening? Why did this cancer happen? And
Right.
yeah, and so but for me, it was I cut out everything white, like no potato, no rice, no bread, and then
Mm-hmm.
flour, no sugar, and still eat that way today. And I think I know I just feel better eating that way. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any scientific proof behind it or anything else, but it was my cancer diet, what I decided to do. And
Yeah.
I feel better because of it. So yeah, so it doesn't have to be this or this. It can be this and this.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be this. It can be that. So yeah,
Right.
you have choices to make, and you have control, and it's your body, and figure out what's going to work for you. And holy cow, yeah, take a minute to breathe. Just breathe and figure out,
Mm-hmm.
what am I supposed to be doing? Where am I supposed to be going?
Absolutely. And some of it is actually the belief. Like you said, we don't know exactly, and medical science doesn't know exactly whether, it's the turnips or the steak, like you said. And we can't pinpoint that because in my body, it might be different than your body too. And so we can't pinpoint that. But I think there's a lot of power in belief and a lot of power in faith. And I talk about harnessing your faith and talking to your body to find out what it needs. And when you can believe that things are going to work out okay, or you can throw love into that equation for yourself, and it becomes a mindset, it becomes an identity that I believe I am doing the best I can for myself. I believe that I am going to work to do whatever it takes for me to be healthy. It may be this, it may be that. Like you said, it's a give and take every day. Well, that didn't work. I'll try this over here today, kind of thing. But I think that belief becomes the foundation, and that faith becomes the foundation that things are going to work out okay. It's kind of a law of attraction kind of thing. And if you believe you're sick, you're sick. If you believe you're healthy and you can make yourself healthy, that's where you're going to go.
Yeah, so true. And this is not condemnation on anybody either, right? Like if you feel like you got a great doctor and that's the way you should go, do it. Do it.
Absolutely.
And people
Absolutely.
are
Yes.
diagnosed at different stages of disease and need to take quick, decisive action and
Hmm.
whatever. And so, so all of it combines. I think one of the most important things in this conversation is that you do have choices
Yes.
and that you're in control. And
Yes.
so, and there are things that you can do with your diet. There are things that you can do spiritually, get on your knees, pray more, you be close to the
Hmm.
Lord, whatever it is. And mentally. And, my grandkids laugh at me. But if I start to not feel good, I just go, I feel great, I feel great, I feel great, I feel great, I feel great. I just say it over and over. And I'm telling you, even if I'm not believing those words, just speaking those words, I end up not with that sickness. And I'm
Hmm.
sure that I could have just crawled into bed with that sickness. And instead do this, I feel great, I feel great, I feel great. So I tell them to do it and they think it's completely wacko. But
Exactly.
I do think there is something to it. Our mind is a powerful thing.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. It's so true. And when you get your conscious mind thinking that way, then it opens up for the subconscious and the soul to kind of come out and say, okay, you have your own best interest at heart. And when that happens, I really do believe that there's a higher power that comes through that honors that. And I like to say that with gratitude and grace. And so when you can say thank you for everything that your body is showing you, whether it's a bad symptom, a good symptom, a happy, smile, a just a enjoyment of the day, your body is showing you that. Your mind is showing you that. You need to be thankful for that. And that will create a grace within yourself that just compounds. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you end up living healthy, you end up being happy. And I'm not saying that there's still not those challenges, and I'm not saying that you can't, sometimes you just can't overcome them without succumbing a little bit. And so,
Right.
but that's okay. And again, you can understand, you can kind of accept what's going on, you can kind of succumb to the fear. You have to let that fear play out through you. You have to let the pain play out through you. But you can also tell your body, "Thank you for showing me that."
Mhm.
And
Good point.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I do
Yeah.
that a lot. I thank my body a lot. It's like yeah, it's kind of um, it's like, okay, thank you for showing me that. Or I say, good job. It's like, good job, gut. You're doing well today, or you're doing well this week, and you're handling this well. So, yeah.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. And I think it goes back to too, you do what's right for you
Hmm.
and you investigate and figure out what is right for you. And often people want to give you their advice. They had an aunt who went through this thing, or they've got an uncle, they've got a cousin, and then they want to share their wisdom with you, which is kind, but it's one thing to share wisdom, and it's another thing to judge what somebody's doing. So, somebody going through chemo and you're anti-chemo, whatever, if that's your stand, don't judge them for going through chemo. It's their body, their choice, and the chemo is going to help them because
It is.
they know that it will. Yeah. So
They believe it's going to help, and so it's going to help.
right.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, there's another thing that I think is kind of interesting. So don't judge people's choices. I guess it comes down to everyone
Mhm.
has to make their own choice. Everyone's got to decide for themselves. And so don't be critical of people. My word, you're already going through a tough time. You're already going through this illness. The last thing you need is anybody around you with negative energy and being critical of what it is that you choose to do. So,
Oh, yeah.
we all need to take a note from that and cool it on that. And I just think it's important that instead it's support, and instead
Mhm.
it's love, and instead it's, how can I
Mhm.
help? What can I do? Instead of, well, what you're doing is wrong, because it's
Yeah.
not wrong for them. That's their choice.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I'm grateful, and I have so much gratitude for um, all of the medical advances and the research and all of that. It's just absolutely amazing. I am just astounded every day of some of the things that are coming out. And I just you have to be grateful, and it's such an important part of our life right now. It's also important to, like you said, give people that space, give them that space to be themselves, hold that space for them. You have to go back to the basic values of kindness and love and giving people hugs and, that kind of piece too. It's like we're all in this together. And what I can support you to do, you can support me to do also. And I think that's my point is people are looking for um, easy answers and easy ways to help things. And that's what the principles and habits that I kind of had written down that I kind of developed over my 35 years here is just to give them some kind of a guideline and that they can do it. I'm no different than you. I'm nothing special, but at the same time, I've I've just noticed some of the things that I've been able to do. And I want to be able to share those with you so that you can see that you can do them too. It's easy, everybody does life. Do it to support yourself rather than hurt yourself. So
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. Okay. So if you were to you've given lots of advice. That is fantastic advice. What is a piece of advice you wish somebody would have given you, or somebody did give you, that you've hung on to and you're like, oh my gosh, that's,
mhm.
that's so good.
Yeah. I think it was the taking care of myself, that was an option. You grew up in the 60s and 70s too. That wasn't a buzzword by any means of taking care of yourself. Life was just there to take care of you. And I think stopping and taking care of yourself, and that there's a reason to do that. I think you have to create a why of why you want to be healthy and why you're outside, which becomes your outside purpose. But I also believe that you need um, to do it for yourself. You are not the whole person that you can be to give to others or to be the light of the world that you need to be if you're not taking care of yourself first and if you're not seeing yourself first. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. And I think that comes back to love as well.
mhm,
Is yes, in seeing yourself and in taking control of your body, yourself, your life, you have to love yourself, right?
mhm,
And so realize that you're special, you're unique, you're the only you. There's nobody who has ever been like you. Nobody ever will be like you. You're it. You're the one
mhm.
and only you, which in by itself is so special, so absolutely incredible. Like
It
when
is.
somebody makes you a gift and it's one of a kind, because they made it for you. Man,
Mhm.
treasure that. They made it with their hands. They made it
With
just
you in mind. Yeah, with your energy,
exactly.
in mind.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think about that. Like, we're masterpieces created by the master. We're
Mhm.
created in God's image. And so to realize the beauty of that and the wonder and the awe of that, of course you should love yourself. Of
Yeah.
course you should. And if
Yeah.
you start there, love yourself and then love yourself enough to give yourself the grace to figure stuff out for yourself.
Mhm.
How
And
your body.
that's been given such a bad rap in the last, several decades. It just is, oh, it's selfish, it's this, it's that, you can't do that, only productivity, strive, be successful, do whatever you need to do, drive yourself to burnout, drive yourself to not even knowing, which way is up. And that's what makes a good person. It's like so wrong. It just isn't. We need to get back to those values of enjoying life, loving each other, being kind, taking care of each other, helping each other, just helping, and not being judgmental. And that in itself is going to make us feel better. It's just that in itself will help us feel better because our emotions are in a better place. And like you said, that self-love takes care of you. And then you can start taking care of somebody else.
Yeah,
So,
you made a couple of really good points because yes, help each other, love each other, just be there for other people. People is what
mhm,
the world's all about. People are the most important thing in the world. So have those relationships, cultivate the relationships and love on each other. And yeah, the whole thought of that it's selfish to love yourself. I think the opposite is true. I think
mhm,
the most selfless thing you can do is love yourself first because then
absolutely.
you really love others. Then
Yes.
you want to do, then you're going to be healthier.
Mhm,
When you feel better about you, you feel better about other people as well. And
right.
so
Right.
start at home, start here, and then you can just spread that love wherever you go. So this has
Yeah.
been fantastic. You're amazing. I'm so impressed with what you've done. And then to give it to us is so huge. So tell people, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they buy your book? Whatever you want people to know.
Absolutely. So we have a website, RebeccaRenck.com. It's RebeccaRenck.com. And that website will take you to a menu that you can get in on the membership. I'm really excited about this newsletter and membership that I'm doing because I can really connect with people and really give some personal advice and things like that. And so that's exciting. And the book itself, you can buy it on the website. It's on Amazon. It's called Healing Habits: How to Help Your Body Heal Itself from Chronic Illness. And it's on Amazon and pretty much any bookstore that you wanted to walk into and ask for, they can get it for you. So I'm excited. Yeah, I think it's a good cause. I think it's time is now for people to understand and to it's I think it's something that we all need to hear. And we've all needed to hear that for quite a while. But I hope I hope people can understand that it's all out of love. It's all out of holding space for you to be healthy and some easy actionable thoughts. I have 20 principles that looking at your life and being happy and rhythms and routines and how to deal with it, addictions or cravings and things like that. And then the habits themselves, I've got over 100 habits that are very easy to implement. It's like, okay, you have a routine. It makes you feel better to be in a routine. As humans, we need routines. And how do you create a habit around that? How do you create a habit around your um, just evaluating your life? How do you create a habit of what you eat? Um, how easy it is to get rid of the things that you don't need. And yeah, just things that every day, it's just throwing them out there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so good. The book is absolutely fabulous, chock full of incredible information. If you know anybody who needs the book, send it. If you have somebody in your life that's going through something that could just use this kind of information, send it to them but this book really is for everybody, whether you have a
Mhm.
chronic illness or not. The principles in this book are for everybody across the board. So buy multiple copies and then send them to people you know, because what a great gift. Because you're going to help their life. You're helping people with their life
Yeah,
in the book. So thank you so much for being here.
absolutely.
Great. I so appreciate you and everything that you've done. And so thank you for joining us today. And I just pray that until we see each other again, that you keep your heart open and you live your love loud.